the American West, a place of vast plains, rugged mountains, and endless skies. It was a land of opportunity and danger, where fortune seekers and outlaws clashed under the scorching sun. Stories of cowboys, lawmen, and gunslingers have been told for generations. Few stories are as enduring as those of the Wild West outlaws. These men were outlaws, thieves, and killers, yet they have been romanticized in popular culture. Let's journey back to the Wild West and uncover the truth behind these legendary figures. Jesse James. The name itself conjures images of daring train robberies and daring escapes. He became a symbol of the Wild West, both feared and admired. His life story reads like a dime novel, full of violence, romance, and rebellion. Born in Missouri in 1847, Jesse James grew up in a time of great turmoil. The Civil War divided the nation, and Missouri became a battleground between Union and Confederate sympathizers. Jesse and his brother Frank fought for the Confederacy, joining a guerrilla unit known for its brutality. After the war, the James brothers returned home to a defeated South. They faced poverty, discrimination, and the lingering wounds of war. It was in this climate of resentment that they turned to crime. The James Younger Gang, as they became known, terrorized the Midwest for over a decade. They robbed banks, stagecoaches, and even trains, becoming infamous for their daring and ruthlessness. But were they simply ruthless criminals, or were they something more? The James Younger Gang's exploits made headlines across the country. Their robberies were daring and meticulously planned, often targeting institutions seen as symbols of Northern power. This fueled their image as Robin Hood-like figures, fighting for the downtrodden against a corrupt system. One of their most audacious robberies took place in 1873 in Iowa. The gang stopped a train, uncoupling the passenger cars and forcing the express messenger to open the safe. They made off with thousands of dollars, leaving behind a trail of shocked passengers and a cloud of steam. Newspapers, hungry for sensational stories, eagerly reported on the gang's exploits. They embellished details, creating a mythology around Jesse James. He was portrayed as a charismatic leader, a skilled gunman, and a master of disguise. The reality, however, was often less glamorous. While Jesse James was undoubtedly a skilled horseman and marksman, he was also a ruthless killer. The gang's robberies often involved violence, leaving a trail of dead lawmen and civilians in their wake. While Jesse James terrorized the Midwest, another young outlaw was making a name for himself in New Mexico. Billy the Kid, born Henry McCarty, lived a short but eventful life. Born in New York City in 1859, Billy drifted west with his family. He grew up on the fringes of society, working odd jobs. By his teenage years, he was known for his skill with a gun. In 1877, Billy became embroiled in the Lincoln County War, joining the Regulators, hired guns in the conflict. The war was a bloody affair with ambushes and shootouts. Billy earned his reputation as a cold-blooded killer. His involvement cemented his status as an outlaw and a target of law enforcement. The legend of Billy the Kid. Billy the Kid's notoriety grew with each daring escape and whispered rumor. He was a lightning-fast draw, able to shoot a man before he hit the ground. Some stories claimed he killed over 20 men, though the true number is likely lower. Newspapers printed exaggerated accounts of Billy's adventures. Some saw him as a folk hero, others as a dangerous criminal. His escape from the Lincoln County Courthouse is legendary. Billy was tracked down and killed by Sheriff Pat Garrett in July 1881. He was just 21 years old. Butch and Sundance, partners in crime. While Jesse James and Billy the Kid met violent ends, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid evaded capture for years. Butch Cassidy led the Hole-in-the-Wall gang from a remote Wyoming hideout. Sundance, a skilled gunman, was Cassidy's loyal companion. They targeted banks and trains, becoming infamous for meticulous planning and daring escapes. Their most famous heist was an 1899 train robbery in Wyoming. The robbery made headlines, cementing their status as two of the most wanted men in the West. Section 7. The Great Escape and the End of the Line. As the law closed in on their operations in the United States, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid decided to seek their fortunes elsewhere. They fled to South America, hoping to start anew in a land where their pasts couldn't follow them. They continued their life of crime in South America, robbing banks and trains with their usual audacity. However, their luck eventually ran out. In 1908, after a botched robbery in Bolivia, Butch and Sundance were reportedly cornered by authorities. The details of their final moments are shrouded in mystery. Some accounts claim they died in a shootout with Bolivian soldiers, while others suggest they survived and returned to the United States. Whatever their fate, the legend of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid continued to grow. Their story, filled with adventure, daring escapes, and a touch of romanticism, has captivated generations. They remain two of the most iconic figures of the Wild West, their names synonymous with outlaw camaraderie and a yearning for freedom. Section 8, the making of myths, dime novels, and newspapers. The stories of Jesse James, Billy the Kid, and Butch Cassidy, along with countless other Wild West outlaws, were shaped and reshaped by the media of the time. Dime novels, cheap publications aimed at a mass audience, played a significant role in crafting the myths surrounding these figures. Dime novels often portrayed outlaws as dashing heroes, fighting for justice against corrupt lawmen and greedy corporations. They emphasized adventure, romance, and gunfights, often exaggerating the exploits of real-life outlaws to create more exciting stories. Newspapers, eager to increase circulation, also played a role in shaping public perception of these outlaws. Sensational headlines and exaggerated accounts of robberies and shootouts fueled the public's fascination with the Wild West and its lawless denizens. These publications often blurred the lines between fact and fiction, creating a mythology around these figures that persists to this day. They turned criminals into folk heroes, romanticizing their violence and glossing over the brutality of their crimes. Section 9. Hollywood's Wild West, where legends are born. The arrival of motion pictures in the early 20th century further solidified the legendary status of Wild West outlaws. Hollywood, always eager for compelling stories, embraced the Wild West as a backdrop for countless films. Westerns became a staple of American cinema, offering audiences a romanticized vision of a bygone era. Outlaws were often portrayed as sympathetic anti-heroes, fighting for their own code of justice in a lawless land. Actors like Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and countless others brought these legendary figures to life on the silver screen, further cementing their place in American popular culture. Films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and the outlaw Josie Wales romanticized outlaw life, emphasizing adventure and rebellion. While these films often took liberties with historical accuracy, they captured the spirit of the Wild West and the enduring allure of the outlaw archetype. They presented a world where men lived by their own rules, where justice was often served with a Colt .45, and where the line between good and evil was often blurred. Section 10. Separating fact from fiction. The stories of Wild West outlaws continue to fascinate us. They offer a glimpse into a turbulent period of American history, a time of rapid expansion, social upheaval, and often brutal violence. But it's important to separate the fact from the fiction, to understand the men behind the myths. Jesse James, Billy the Kid, and Butch Cassidy were products of their time. They were shaped by the violence and instability of the post-Civil War era, driven to crime by poverty, resentment, or a thirst for adventure. Their stories, while often romanticized, were rooted in the harsh realities of frontier life. They were not Robin Hood figures fighting for the downtrodden. They were criminals who robbed, killed, and terrorized. It's essential to remember the victims of their crimes, the lawmen and civilians who lost their lives in their pursuit of fortune and fame. While their stories may continue to entertain us, we must not lose sight of the human cost of their actions. Section 11. The enduring allure of the Wild West. Despite the need for historical accuracy, the allure of the Wild West and its legendary outlaws remains strong. These stories tap into something deep within us, A fascination with freedom, adventure, and rebellion against authority. They represent a time when the West was a blank slate, a place where men could reinvent themselves and forge their own destinies. Even if those destinies led them down a path of crime and violence, there's a certain romanticism to their stories that continues to resonate. The Wild West may be long gone, but its myths and legends continue to capture our imaginations. By separating fact from fiction, we can gain a deeper appreciation for this turbulent period of American history and the complex figures who shaped it. So, the next time you watch a Western film or read a story about Jesse James, Billy the Kid, or Butch Cassidy, remember that the Wild West was more than just a setting for romanticized tales. It was a real place, populated by real people, with real stories to tell.